Seems like in a lot of these headlines, no one's really talking about that. I read these off in the last segment, but every single headline that I've seen is just about the fact that she'll be making history as the first transgender woman as assistant health secretary. Do you think that's kind of overshadowing her actual abilities to do the job?
Yes, and I think it's actually indicative of what this new administration is all about. For the Biden-Harris administration, identity itself is a qualification, and you can tell the merits of an individual by looking at them or by asking what their, preferred identifiers are. And I think that that's absolutely absurd, both in terms of choosing people to lead key positions and policies across the nation, but it's also completely anathema to the concept of equal rights and civil rights, because to judge someone based on their identity, whether it's in this case, Levine being a gender nonconforming male who uses female pronouns, or whether it's based on someone's skin color or their ethnic background. I don't think these are qualifications. I think these are things about a person, and that's fine. We can celebrate these things about a person. That person can celebrate them themselves. They can celebrate their communities, but that's not a qualification to lead a national agency of health. Instead, I think they should have looked at this record where more than half of the deaths in Pennsylvania were in the nursing homes, where Levine had this policy of returning COVID-positive people back to nursing homes. It was a similar policy to the one Andrew Cuomo had in New York, and it was a complete and utter disaster.
And Libby, to your
How's
point,
that a qualification?
right? And to your point, it is kind of representative of what they've been doing, because even Kamala Harris, when Biden first announced he was going to pick a vice president, he said, "I will pick a black woman." And so just right there, that became the qualification for being vice president, was you had to be black and you had to be a woman, and then you could get the job. If you did not meet those, you were not even in the running. Libby, my next question for you, I know you're very outspoken about censorship and free speech, but I noticed in one of your columns, you make the point that this urge to banish voices is coming from a lot of journalists and a lot of media outlets. What does that say to you about our press right now?
I think that's actually rather shocking, and it's certainly not the same kind of press that I grew up watching. I grew up there in Massachusetts on the South Shore. I had a stepmom who was a Democrat and a dad who was a Republican, and very heated dinner table conversations. And we respected the press. You know, when we turned on the evening news, we assumed that we could trust the people who were speaking to not be delivering the news in a way that confirmed their own biases, but to be rather objective about it. This was a standard of journalism, this concept of objectivity, and I think it's completely gone out the window. And this idea now that it's okay to censor voices, that it's okay to, say that certain journalists or outlets or social media platforms should just be removed from the public eye, I think stems from this thing that's going on with the Biden administration that he was doing in the campaign, which is identifying key crises and then making policy and decisions based on the fact that these crises are so important that what we get to do is destroy all the rules in support of just trying to fix these crises. He's got the economy is a crisis, racism is a crisis, the coronavirus is a crisis, and climate change is a crisis. And now what we recently had was the Capitol Hill riot is a crisis, Donald Trump is a crisis, and all of these things are so essential that we need to silence any voices that are not falling in line in order to try and fix these crises, according to the leftist bias that would supposedly fix them, and does not seem to be actually doing the trick, as evidenced by Levine in Pennsylvania. I think it's really frightening to see that happen, and it's more important that people who do believe in free speech maintain that argument that more voices are necessary, more speech is necessary, not less. When you encounter someone who you're afraid of their opinion, speak your opinion, engage. There's no fear. There should be no fear of free speech.
I'm talking to Libby Emmons. She writes for a variety of sources. But Libby, one thing that kind of caught my eye was when you were talking about this censorship, a lot of people from your publications were being called out, and people were hoping that they would get deplatformed like President Trump. I noticed that someone from the Post Millennial was coming under fire. Someone, obviously Molly Hemingway from the Federalist. Did it start to feel pretty close to home when all of these great writers are being put on the chopping block?
I'm not too concerned about that for myself, simply because I've been deplatformed before and I'm still here. Molly Hemingway is not going to go anywhere. She is rather fierce, and I do not anticipate it would not be easy to get her to stop speaking, which I think is a great thing. The Post Millennial, we work really hard to maintain the line of free speech, and I think it's important. If people come after you for speaking your mind, just speak louder.
Yeah, it almost feels like you guys are doing something right if all of those places are being kind of attacked for their opinions. Maybe they're saying something that's worth listening to. Libby, I also wanted to ask you, I know that you're pretty, I've seen you do hits before where you talk about kind of the woke curriculum and especially in schools in New York. And I've been seeing so many stories lately about bringing this woke ideology to a lot of schools. Does this scare you, not just as a journalist, but as a parent?
As a parent, I do find it pretty alarming, because I don't think that it's reasonable to teach children that their differences are any more than skin deep, which they are not. My son goes to a school where he's the only white kid in his class. This is not a problem for him. This is not a problem for his parents. It's not a problem for the school. But I think teaching that his white skin gives him some sort of status as an oppressor, or that other children's dark skin gives them some status as a victim, is not going to lead to a nation that is unified, or a nation that was even as un-race-based in its content of discourse, 20 years ago. So I do think that it's dangerous. I think that the reason that we're seeing this kind of curriculum being implemented in lower and lower grades is because it's easier to convince little kids of untruths to the point where they believe them for their entire lives than it is to convince high schoolers or even college kids that this is the right way to think about things. And so I do think that it's scary from that perspective, especially when you consider how many voices in leftist media we've heard recently talking about how people who supported Trump need to be deprogrammed in some way. This is the kind of stuff we heard from Mao. I mean, this is ludicrous. So I think for parents who are more open-minded and who appreciate differences of opinion and who appreciate what the country stands for, you're going to have to take your kids' education a little bit in hand.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Anyway.
That was going to be my next question is, what do you suggest to parents who I've seen some stories lately about schools in Minnesota that don't want the students learning about the American Revolution or the Holocaust or World War I or World War II. What do you say to parents who want their kids to know not just American history, but history in general?
I think it's important that we remember that the academic institutions are not the end-all and be-all of education. We have classic literature in this country and globally and worldwide globally and worldwide are the same thing. But anyway, we have classic literature that I think teaches a much better education as far as the narrative of human history than anything that our 4th and 5th grade teachers are going to teach our kids. And we need to remember that. One thing that I did after my son was given all of these lessons in his status as an oppressor was I started teaching him mythology, Greek mythology, Norse mythology, Egyptian mythology, digging into Bible stories so that he would get a sense of that. Because I think one of the most important things that we can teach our kids is what humans have been telling themselves about the human story for as far back as we can get that information. That's going to really give us a sense of what we're about and what we envision for ourselves, as opposed to these quickly manufactured new narratives that are designed to achieve some outcome without any concern for the process of actual learning.
Libby, my final question for you, because and if I'm wrong here, tell me, but I think you're from New York, or I know you're from Massachusetts, but I think now you live in New York. Andrew Cuomo people in New York have strong opinions on him. Are you surprised about his U-turn on the economy? Now he said at his State of the State, he wants to reopen the economy and, we can't afford to have it shut down any longer. Did that surprise you, that switch up?
It didn't surprise me because that was the deal, right? I mean, the country was sort of held hostage until we voted for Biden, and then the idea was we could get our country back. So I don't think it's surprising that we're seeing mayors and governors make turns on this. That was kind of the promise. There were even a few weeks after, maybe a week or two after the election, where it felt like things were going to open up before we cracked down again. And now I think that now that they feel that they've got a sturdy hand at the helm who is filling positions based on identity as opposed to qualifications, they feel that they can reopen the state and the city.
They can let us sorry people go back to work. Libby Emmons, thank you so much for joining us. People can find Libby on Twitter at Libby Emmons. She writes for the Federalist, the New York Post, the Post Millennial. All of her stuff is awesome. She has a really good handle on everything that's happening right now in the news, which is hard because there's so many news stories out there. Thank you, Libby. We hope you'll join us again.
Thanks so much.
Guys, my friends at Eden Pure have done it again. I got to show you this. I know I hold it up a lot, but I need you guys to see how small this is. Starting today, you can get the Thunderstorm Air Purifier at the lowest price offered to my listeners. With code word GRACE, the Thunderstorm is available for under $90 and shipping is free. This is what I want people to understand. If you try to get this anywhere else, not only is it probably going to cost you around $600, it's huge. They're usually loud. They usually require filters, and they just don't look that good. But with this, you plug it in. It's like a cell phone charger. Nobody even knows it's there.
Yeah, you don't even have to see it. You can plug it in behind a couch, behind a bookcase, and the air smells fresh. It smells clean because it's deionized. It's just like after a thunderstorm. You get that fresh smell, which everybody loves, and it doesn't get any better than that. It's you plug it in, and you don't even have to worry about it after that.
We love them here in the office to fight Howie's when Howie starts cooking fish in the microwave, or when Jared starts microwaving Indian food.
Yes, I have to expand my brand. I got to figure out what else I can try to cook.
Yeah, well,
in the microwave here for the thunderstorm.
Jared, go for it.
The world is open to me.
This thing can take on any challenge, whether you have a damn dog at your house. Or, if your house is just, sometimes in the winter, I notice that the air just gets stale in your house. You get the windows shut a lot. It just doesn't, sometimes it just starts to smell a little, ugh. So you need something fresh. You want the Thunderstorm. Everyone here loves them. We all love them. Howie loves them. Our advertisers love them. In fact, the Nauset Beach Inn put one in every single room. The Thunderstorm doesn't take up any floor space. It's quiet. Take advantage of this 1 week only sale and experience for yourself what all the listeners, Howie, and advertisers are raving about. Go to EdenPure.com, and here's the key. Put in code word GRACE. That's EdenPure.com, code word GRACE. Shipping is free. We're going to be talking. I have a really good story I want to read to you guys on the other side. I'll open up the phone lines if anyone has any comments about some of Joe Biden's latest picks, including Rachel Levine. And I think Janet Yellen is going through her Senate hearings today. So we'll see who gets approved. I have a feeling that a lot of these people are going to get approved. I mean, are they the best picks? No, but the Republicans aren't going to put up a fight. 844-500-4242. Call in. This is The Grace Curley Show.
You're listening to The Grace Curley Show.